Welcome to Tom's Messiaen vlog, episode 1. This is an introduction to a video diary I'm going to be producing over the next few weeks and months as I learn the Livre de Saint-Sacrement by Messiaen. I have a performance scheduled in London in November, and this is a huge project. Messiaen wrote 7 organ cycles in total, and this is the last one. He wrote it in the early 1980s, about 10 years before he died, and it is 18 movements, 18 movements, and about 2 hours in duration. And in the past, I've played a lot of Messiaen over the years, but I haven't played this cycle, and in fact I've only ever played one movement from it, duration about 4.5 minutes or something like that. So I've got a lot of notes to learn, and I want to lift the bonnet on that process. That's one of the purposes of this video diary. I'm going to be doing a 5-minute video or thereabouts once a week. Informal, carefully planned, but informal, just recording the process. And so one of the things to talk about is that the very technical and mental process of bludgeoning all this music into my brain and how to do it in an orderly and effective and efficient and professional manner. So I want to share that, and there are going to be ups and downs. Undoubtedly, there are going to be times where I do a video saying, this bit, bar 20 or whatever, this is something I'm really struggling to get this bit right, and I need to try and work out how, and I'll be discussing that, or sharing my thoughts on that with the camera. So that's one purpose of this video diary, is to lift the bonnet on the learning process. Another thing I'd like to do is to talk a little bit about how Messiaen's music works. You might be somebody who is a little bit suspicious of Messiaen's music, finds it a bit difficult to listen to, or you're not quite sure how to approach it. And I want to demonstrate to everybody that it can really help when you're learning any music, not just modern music. It can help to understand a little bit about how the music works. It can really inform your playing and your understanding of that piece. So I want to provide an in, perhaps, to somebody who is a bit suspicious of Messiaen's music, to show you how it works and why it sounds the way it does and what he's trying to achieve and so on and so forth. So I want to open up a whole new world there, hopefully, from a listening perspective. But also, if you're somebody who wants to play Messiaen, hopefully I'll be able to help there as well. So there we go. There's 2 purposes: lifting the bonnet on the learning process, and secondly, explaining how the music works a little bit. So that's those 2 things. And then the other thing, there are all sorts of interesting issues that I want to discuss concerning the actual performance of this music. I mean, a very obvious thing that they'll undoubtedly be talking about is registration. What stops to use? Messiaen's registrations are always very detailed and very specific, but they always relate to one particular instrument, the organ at La Trinité in Paris, where he was organist for his entire career. And that instrument is the starting point for all his registration instructions, but of course he didn't intend that people should only play his music on that one organ, of course. So there's that issue of translating his very specific registration instructions for a very particular organ to another instrument, whatever that might be. And there's a whole question perhaps over what exactly is the ideal Messiaen organ. So there's something to talk about in the future. Other stuff, well, Messiaen's bird style, he wrote down bird song. Bird song forms a huge part of his musical language, and there's a lot of it in the Livre de Saint-Sacrement, and how to approach it. If you listen to a bird flying around, what they're doing sounds so improvisatory and so free and so creative. When you look at it on the page, it doesn't look like that. It looks very prescriptive, and his rhythms are very specific and so on and so forth. So how do I approach performing that? Because really I want to capture that freedom. And there's a related issue, just looking at all of Messiaen's music. It's modern music, it is notated very precisely, he often works in very detailed ways with rhythm and experiments with rhythm, and you could just sit down and play precisely what he's written on the page, metronomically, semiquaver for semiquaver, get it exactly right. Somehow that doesn't feel like the right thing to do. I mean, if you think about where Messiaen's coming from, his background as an organist certainly is as an improviser. That's the church music tradition he was working within, and I think a lot of his music grew out of improvisation and things that he was experimenting with, perhaps on a Sunday morning. So I need to bring that sense of improvisatory freedom, I would contend, to my performance. Indeed, if you listen to his own playing, there are recordings of him playing most of his organ pieces, and there is a limited amount of recordings of him playing the piano as well. The approach is really very free, and it's easy to listen to that and say, oh, he couldn't play his own music. I've heard people say that, but actually, really, I think he's painting in sound. That's what he does. That's what he does when he composes, and I think that's what he does when he plays. So I need to get that balance between, learning what's on the page, but also making it sound free. And how am I going to do that? So that is a big one to discuss, and it works on macro and micro levels as well. I should have to say, you know, there's pieces which are entirely of birdsong, so I need to make that entire piece sound like birds wheeling around. That's a huge deal. But there are other pieces, such as Movement 16, the prayer after communion, where much of the musical material, melodically, is based around a falling triplet figure. And so on and so forth. It's a shame to break it off, really, because it's so lovely. Those triplets coming back, that kind of question and answer feel that you heard there, the tension and resolution provided by the harmony underneath as well, that's the basis for this entire piece. Somehow those falling triplets, though, they kind of need to sound different. I can't just play it mechanically. You know, I mean, that's just not going to, you know, even with the right notes, that's not going to work. And I can't hide behind the fact that he asks you to change manuals and that the question and answer thing is provided somewhat by the registration. I need to do stuff with my fingers as well. So I've not got the sense of freedom with that piece yet that I want to achieve. So that's the micro level. You know, how to handle 4 notes, albeit 4 notes that happen many times during the course of a 4-minute piece. So there we have it. That's what the Messiaen vlog is going to be about. It's going to be about exploring the process of learning a piece, it's going to be about exploring the music itself, and it's going to be exploring how on earth do you perform it? How do you deal with the instrument, with the acoustic, with the music itself, and get the effect you want? That is what I'm going to be talking about. So, belt up, strap yourselves in, and you know, we'll get on to episode 2 very soon. Thanks for listening.